What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tsla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down some big news that just came out for Apple stock that's very important for it, that's dictating the whole market today. And what's going on with some important resistance levels that SPY is testing right now. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in 9 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. Looking at SPY, we got a very, very nice balance thanks to Aapl. Aapl helped the market pump today after we got some bullish news. And then after that, SPY started to test the 50 EMA. It's been stuck here very close to 445, going back and forth and back and forth. And this 444 zone is very, very important for SPY, especially because we have support at the 20 EMA at 444 flat. Right now, we're just trading sideways in the 444s, and this may continue as time goes on. But so far, Aapl is still holding up quite nicely, and Aapl does have some potential to help this market continue. Now, why is Aapl so important? Well, some new news came out. According to this new transcript, we could see that the iPhone sales are going crazy for the iPhone 15. This transcript right here is showing pre-orders up 10% year over year. The pre-orders began this Friday and they're continuing to explode. They're doing much better than the iPhone 14 so far, and this is some great news for them. On top of this, there's been a lot of hype about their new features, and there's been some more talk about how in India, the pre-orders are up about 25% year over year. This is once again very, very strong as we're seeing demand soaring in for this iPhone. And these new features that came out are just so enticing to so many investors, so many people that own iPhones, and this is great news for them. So with that news coming out, it just came out like right about here. Apple started pushing and pushing and pushing, and this thing is up over 2% for the day, which is pretty big for it, as this thing is, it doesn't trade that crazily during most days. So the 30 minutes time frame is looking bullish on Aapl, not to mention the fact that the 4-hour is holding up quite decently, and that's why Aapl is holding up the way it is. So now Aapl is getting very close to this 180 resistance, and there's a good chance we're going to reach it. I think Aapl has potential to push even more, and I'm going to be watching this 180 level as some key resistance for Aapl. It looks strong so far, and it looks like it's going to try to hold up for most of this remainder of the day. And this may help the market hold up as well. So that's part of why the market's holding up. Now let's talk about SPY. How is SPY looking? Well, thanks to Aapl, SPY started pushing up too. The 4-hour was very bearish when we started off, but then it started to curl. And I just want to note that we were very indecisive in the very beginning. For the first 30 minutes, we just went nowhere. And then as time went on, when Aapl started pushing, then SPY started to follow, and this thing started pushing as well, getting a nice recovery, at least a somewhat significant recovery, nothing too crazy. We got stopped at the 50 EMA at this 445 level, and we have support the 20 EMA. Right now, we're just going back and forth, but there is a chance it's going to try to retest this 445 level. It's going to try to continue to fight it as Aapl is still holding up nicely. And if Aapl continues to break out, if it gets close to 180, this could help the market hold up quite decently. So there's a good chance we're going to hold up at the very least for now. This bullish news for Aapl was great for the markets, just what the market needed for this recovery, at least this temporary recovery. And that is great news so far. Now, as far as Tesla goes, Tesla dropped pretty hard in the beginning, but then it started to hold above this 266 level we were talking about for the majority of the day. That's a decent sign for Tesla. The 30 minutes MACD is trying to curl a bit, but it's not too strong. It's kind of just trading sideways. Tesla is relatively weak today because of the fact that we had some bad news that came out, as Goldman Sachs is expecting some profit cuts for the company, and they're expecting weaker earnings than before. So that is some new news for Tesla. Tesla looks like it's just going to range trade between 266 to 268, going back and forth and back and forth. It's been doing that for the past 4 hours, just going back and forth and back and forth. So not a whole lot is going on so far. We're going to be watching this very, very carefully, very closely. And for now, just know that Tesla is not one of the more fun stocks to play, at least for today. Looking at something else such as Nvda, we were talking about some important levels to watch for in Nvda. We had this 427 to 425 zone as some critical support. If you look at how Nvda moved, we saw it drop all the way down just a little bit below it, but this was just a liquidity grab down here. So it sank as we opened right down here, went down to about 423. And then this thing got a really nice bounce after that. So they dropped a little bit below its support at 425. They dropped it just a little bit lower to grab liquidity, and this was a very, very nice push for the trend reversal. So Nvidia is breaking this high right here. There is potential for it to try to get very close to this 442 level. I think we touched it today just temporarily. I'm going to be watching this 442 resistance. If we manage to break above this, we could see this thing push for the 50 EMA at 445, and if that breaks, 450 is on the table. But if Nvidia, fails to do that, it could just range trade for a bit. So we're just going to be watching 442 as resistance. That's the key resistance for Nvidia. And as of right now, it's holding up quite decently thanks to some good news that came out and thanks to the momentum in the markets shifting just a bit. Just know that we have FOMC coming up within 2 days. So with the numbers coming out and all this hype associated with it, we could see some high volatility, especially when Powell talks. So we just have to be ready for that. Finally, last but not least, for the QQQ, we have some other important levels. The QQQ, we were talking about this zone right here, which is where we tend to get historical bounces. And I told you all, if we broke this 368 support, this thing would come sinking down to 366. If we bounced off it, we'd see this thing push towards its resistance. We call that 370. Then the next zone above that would be very close to this like 372 area. That's almost exactly where the QQQ has gone to for today. We broke above 370 resistance. And we're getting very close to 372. We're just about like 20 cents short of that, but we're still holding up decently thanks to Aapl. There's a good chance it's just going to hold up for the rest of the day. And that said, guys, pretty decent day. Very good to see the market bouncing. On the QQQ, I just want to mention one last thing. With the VIX dropping, this is a good sign for the markets to try to hold up as well. And I just want to note that the VIX started off very strong. It started off very strong, has this gap down here. I think it almost filled the gap, and it still is kind of flat, so it's decent. But going back to the QQQ, I just wanted to mention that the current technicals are improving. We have a bullish cross on 30 minutes PPO. And on the 4-hour, we're starting to curl a little bit, but we need a little bit more upside for us to truly turn bullish. We need to see this confirmation of the break of 372. And this could be attempting to form an inverse head and shoulders. There's a possibility of that. But if we are pumping right before the FOMC meeting, I'd be very careful. I'd be very, very careful. If we're going to keep going like this tomorrow, just be very careful because of Jerome Powell. You never know what he's going to say. Even though the Fed is likely not going to raise rates for September, because the market hasn't like fully prepared for that or fully priced that in. Even though that's the case, they could hint at that for the next meeting, the meeting that comes towards the end of the year. There is a possibility, so you never know. Is it enough to cause the market to crash insanely hard? I wouldn't say that, but I do believe that it's going to cause high volatility nonetheless. And whatever Jerome Powell says, it's going to be very telling. So I want everyone to be prepared for this. I want everyone to be ready. With that said, just watch your levels carefully, especially Aapl. Watch how Apple's holding up. It still has potential. And right now, the market is just continuing to kind of range trade for a bit, kind of boring for the rest of the day. But there is still some potential, especially during power hour, if Aapl gets one last push. Okay? So with that said, have a great day, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you guys very soon for the afternoon video. Thank you, and peace out.